Well, hey, everybody. My name is Jonathan. This is Jonathan.
Yep, my name's Jonathan also.
That's right.
True. Yeah.
That was our start to our new podcast from Church on the Rock. This is our studio down here at Church on the Rock, and we're not the only ones in the room. Actually, we have our studio manager in the room, Caleb Walker, as well.
That is correct. He's keeping us in line, doing his best to make us look presentable.
I hope so.
Which apparently takes a lot of work.
That's right.
Yeah.
And this podcast has a special title that we worked really hard to come up with.
We did. Well, I did.
That's right.
I've been thinking about it for a while.
Tell us what it is.
So I thought it'd be fun to sit down and take topics over time and present them, but then have this sort of segue where you say, but on the other hand, right? Like, I understand that seems like the whole story, but there's more to the story, or there's another way to see this issue, or another way to read that passage of Scripture. And so I've just been thinking for a while it'd be fun to do a podcast called On the Other Hand. And we take topics that can be really challenging, culturally relevant, and then we kind of present differing views on them, sometimes bring guests in to do that.
Yeah.
And I know you and I agree on almost everything.
Almost.
But yeah.
Well, and that's the point, right? Is the issue is that what we've discovered in our day and age, some of the things that we deal with as pastors, some of the things that we know people are going through, or we see on TV, or we read in the media, that we have everybody's interested. Like, it seems to me like the interest level has been peaked for all kinds of topics, even topics that, what were the big three, religion and money and like things you're not supposed to talk about. Everybody's talking about, but our ability to talk about those things, it seems to be going the opposite direction of the way it should.
Yeah. To use those three sort of words, that there are things that we disagree on.
Yeah.
There are things that divide us denominationally, and then there are things that are worth dying for, right? That I'm going to stand firm on these. But it seems like there's a tendency for everything to get pushed into the arena that, no, this is worth dying for. If you disagree with me on this, then we can't have a conversation about it. Yeah. And so I think what we hope to model is, how do you have that dialogue? How do you engage in meaningful conversation and yet mutually respect and value one another?
And of course, this is a podcast we want everybody to be able to get in on, but specifically, we're coming from, and we just admit to it, right? We're coming from a Christian perspective.
That's true.
We're free to use the Bible as a source for some of the things. We're going to be talking about a lot of things that matter to Christians, but I think things that matter to everybody.
Yeah, and I think even for people who don't believe, right, in the claims of Christianity, my hope would be that even as you would listen to this, you would discover that maybe you've been told that Christianity believes something that it doesn't actually believe. And so when we look at those sorts of issues, our hope would be that we accurately portray what are core fundamental beliefs within the Christian world, and what are things that we can be fine disagreeing on.
Yeah. All right, so one of the things we wanted to find out is a little bit about each other. I mean, what is it that qualifies us to even be here? And maybe we're not. Maybe we...
I am certain that I have no idea what would qualify us to be here, other than we disagree on a lot of things.
And we're interested in a lot of things.
And we believe it matters to have conversation, and we're not afraid of difficult topics.
Yeah.
And so I think, in terms of education and experience, I don't really wear this as a badge of honor. It's just the truth. I don't have a degree in anything. I started out, before I was a believer, pursuing marine biology, but the truth was I was pursuing soccer. That's why I went to college. But I was interested in marine biology, and then got into ministry. I was in a little Bible school down in Homer and got sort of a basic biblical education. I'm an avid learner. I love to learn, but I had never taken the time to go back and go through sort of that structured process. And so I just started writing at the front of my name, Dr. Jonathan. I figured
people believed it worked for you.
That's right. It's landed me all kinds of great opportunities that I knew nothing about.
Well, and both of us also have families, right? I mean, so I have two teenagers. You have an adult son, right, here in the room with us, but you also have three daughters, and I have two younger kids as well, and those discussions, the discussions that people are interested, I mean, they're facing, and so as parents, we often find ourselves in a situation where we're going, what do I believe about this? Or, that wasn't really on my radar, but now it really matters because this is an issue that they're facing at school or whatever. And so I think just even as parents, we bring some of that to the table of, hey, these are issues that we all face together as families.
And And I think life experience in leadership, when you spend enough time leading people, right, in pastoral ministry or in other environments, there are some things you discover along the way and conclusions that you come to that I think can be helpful in shaping the way that people think about these kinds of topics. And so both of us have been in pastoral ministry. We've both been senior pastors. We've been involved in launching nonprofits, a lot of different things. And so hopefully that's a helpful perspective.
We hope it's a value. That's where we'll land with that, right? I mean, we hope that there's something there that that's a value. But even just learning how to talk about things is again, so critical. And hopefully we'll set some kind of an example.
Here's hoping, or we'll both go work someplace else.
That's right.
I would just say this: I have the opportunity about once a year to go and teach groups of college-age students, many of whom have already been through university. Typically, there are anywhere from 10 to 30 different countries represented in this group, and I deal with topics of worldview. How do worldviews get shaped? What's shaped my worldview? And then apologetics. Is there any evidence for the claims of Christianity? Does Christianity actually make the most sense, right, logically, with the world that we find ourselves in? And what's been astounding to me is as I present that material, I end the class every time. The last session is how to have a conversation.
Yeah.
Right? How to actually engage in a conversation, because people want to talk about things. They're not afraid to talk about things. They don't want to be attacked, right? And they don't want to engage in a debate with you. But how could you engage in meaningful conversation with people? And I think it's a lost art in our culture. The moment we discover we disagree, we are now pitted against one another.
Yeah, and that's why it's so critical. We go back to our paradigm, and you guys will hear this over and over again. We're like, what category do we put this subject or this topic in, divide for or disagree about or to die for? Those are going to be important things for us because it helps shape or frame the conversation from the get-go.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little bit actually about, we're here at Church on the Rock. What is it that you do?
I am the lead pastor at Church on the Rock. Been here in this role for about a little over 7 years now. Prior to that, I was a church planter in Homer, Alaska, planted a Church on the Rock down there. And then prior to that, I was actually the youth pastor here. And so that's sort of the connection to Church on the Rock. So a little over 7 years ago, they asked if I'd come back and take the lead pastor position. So I sort of provide oversight, direction to all of our campuses here in the Mat-Su Valley. And then I'm also the campus pastor at our Wasilla campus currently as well. So
that's right.
That's what I do. Yeah. And I get to bring people like you on the team to join me in our central leadership team. So
yeah, I've been here over a year now.
And you're sticking around.
And I love it. And I love working with you, and I love ideas like this where we get to talk about things. And actually, that's one of the I don't know if this is really an inspiration. There were a lot of things that inspired this, but just the chance that we have on a regular basis to sit and marinate about topics. And again, if there's disagreements, to just kind of dive deeper into some of those areas and explore them so that we can articulate them better, but also ultimately so that we can minister to people in a way that is receivable.
Yeah, we've asked the right questions, right? And so a huge value for us here is what we call loyal dissent, that you and I could disagree, and yet we know we're on the team together. Yeah. We're running forward together. And that's hard, I think, often for people. But the diversity in our pastoral staff on lots of different issues, right? There are boundaries. There have to be boundaries. There are hard and fixed lines for us. But there are lots of things that would be sort of the nuanced theological doctrinal things that we're free to disagree on. I think we actually come to a better understanding of the Scriptures and the character of God when we do that.
In fact, I actually tell people this all the time. When I came from pastoral ministry in Oregon, moved up here with my family, and we kind of had to do that thing that everybody up here has to do: find your church. But usually you don't even know where you're going because you're so disconnected, right? It's a big deal to move up here. And I can tell you one of the major things, and I just tell everybody this, that really attracted me to Church on the Rock was that openness to discussion from different theological perspectives. And and seeing the result, even in the preaching from the pulpit, that thoughtful processes were in place, right? That I felt like there was a better result, not only on a Sunday morning, but just in philosophy. So those are things that attracted us here to begin with, and we want to just kind of carry that on. So today, this is just the framework that we're working with. That's kind of where we wanted to head as a starter point for us. But one of the features we think is going to be a fun and amazing is kind of a lightning round, sort of a Q&A format, and so the way we thought we would do that and kick it off for today to show you some of the topics that we think are engaging and edgy that you might be interested in is to actually do that, is to start with that. And 3 questions, and the format is kind of either or. Yep.
You only get to pick one. You might have some thoughts about the other one, but they're going to be either or questions, which everybody hates, right? Who likes to be pigeonholed? But we'll get back to explaining more later.
Oh, and it's even worse than that. We don't get to defend.
That's right.
Our view. So you could think anything of us that you want to.
They will anyways. So
that's right. Yeah. But it will set the tone for some of the things that are to come, where we do get a chance to dive deeper and explain some of those things. So are you ready for this?
I'm 3 different shades of ready.
All right.
Yeah, and so we're just going to take turns, right?
Take turns. Neither one of us have any idea what the other person has written down, but we're going to do 3 different categories, right? We agreed on this. The categories are theological, so something theological that's an either or issue. Do you believe...
or at least that you think is an either or issue.
It's an either or issue.
You may present to me, I'm like, both.
And.
But we don't get to say that.
Okay.
We have to pick one.
Have to land without a description. And also social, so something that's going on nationally or in our society or in the world. And the third one's family. Yep. And we just kind of threw family in there for today because we're going to be heading that direction in a number of different ways later.
We just kind of threw family in there because it's not typically valuable to talk about.
But today it is.
But okay.
All right. Hopefully you're with us here. Do you want to go first?
No, actually, I would love.
I'm gonna put you on the hot seat.
That's great. You go first.
Okay. Here we go. So we're gonna start with. I'm gonna start with social. I'm gonna go out of my own order.
We can start wherever we want.
That's right.
Oh boy. Okay.
I'm gonna go social. Do you think our main focus as a nation should be on punishing those who break our laws or offering rehabilitation?
Punishing.
You're welcome. But all right, you'll have to tune in later for the more that is there. But he says punishing. All right, here we go. All right, I'm ready, man. This is scary.
Fine, then. I'm going to start out of order as well.
Yeah.
Spanking your children.
Oh, no.
Family. Spanking your children can be healthy, or you should never hit your kids.
You should never hit your kids. I feel like that's easier than it should have been.
Okay. All right. So no spanking for you.
Well, you said hit, so we're just going to hinge on that. Never hit your kids.
Spanking's hitting.
Hey, we can't go any further. I'm sorry.
I can. You just can't.
All right. Good question. All right, here we go. Let's go. Let's do theological.
Oh, good.
Do you believe... By the way, this
Yes.
question has split the church in the past. If you know anything about church history, I don't know that it's a question.
So you're saying churches have split
over this issue.
Okay.
That this has been a divide for issue. There's one of our categories, a divide for issue throughout the ages. Not necessarily as much today, but I'm going soft on you here. So here it is. Do you believe communion is a symbol and nothing more, or a means of grace?
Ooh.
It's got to be an either or.
Well, you had to throw in and nothing more in there.
That's right.
Right. I think it is symbolic.
All right, here we go.
Yep.
All right, very good. Your turn.
All right. So we're going theological here. Predestination.
Yes.
In other words, you have no choice in the matter.
Okay.
Or free will.
Predestination or free will. Free will. Free willing. I'm all about free will, right?
Okay.
Here we go.
So lying or truth telling?
We've got to go further on that. It's going to be wonderful.
It will. That's going to be fun.
All right, last one. This is in the family category. Everybody likes families, so that's why we did it. Here it goes. Do you believe social media has brought families closer together or driven families further apart? One or the other is taking place. Maybe.
Can I just ask, when you said family, you're talking about nuclear family or
good question? Yeah, nuclear family,
extended family?
your family. So if you're in your nuclear family, has
family.
it primarily driven families closer together or driven them further apart?
I would say if we're talking about my household, my nuclear family, driven us further apart.
All right.
Yeah. All right. You ready for your last one?
I'm here, man. Let's do this.
In our country, are we dealing with systemic racism?
Oh, boy.
Or some people that are racist?
Oh, wow. Well, I don't get to defend anything, but with this caveat, this is a sensitive issue right now, right? And it deserves more attention.
You're saying the caveat isn't defending.
But in terms of a systemic problem, no, I think that this is something that is more of an individual problem.
It's going to be a good one to get into.
It really is, yeah.
And I think we're going to need to hear from others on it too.
Absolutely. And certainly I can see both sides. So this is going to be, that's the kind of question that we want to say, well, this is where you're at, but on the other hand.
Yep, on the other hand. And I think it's worth communicating, right? Dialoguing and understanding one another, because the reality is that more often than not, topics become very sensitive, right? And the ability to hear what the other person's actually saying, to understand where they're coming from, to find common ground, not just the place where we divide, I think is going to be really critical, and that's what we hope to model.
Not only that, but we hope to model humility, in the sense that it may be through this discussion, just like here all the time, where we decide, this is where I started, this is why, I had good reasons.
Yep.
Typically people are reasonable, but now I've become convinced that this is really where we need to go, this is where we need to sit. And that's the process we're called to, iron sharpening iron, if you're leveraging the scriptures here. But that's something that, again, we want to engage in, we want to talk about and work through.
Well, and I think, for us individually, right, as we touch on these topics, you're going to get to hear our own story, our own family history, some of those kinds of things. But there are numerous topics culturally right now that I have found myself, when I'm willing to listen, I have found myself shifting and moving, not only in regards to how I communicate, but what I fundamentally believe about those issues. And I think this, for us, will be a journey of discovery as well, coming to a better understanding, softening the way we communicate, representing the gospel better in the way we communicate. And so I'm excited about it.
Yep. Well, and as you know, and especially in these things, some of these are both ands as
Correct.
Well, right? And we are intentionally offsetting it, forcing the issue, and which is fun. But looking forward to further communication. All right, we've got to go ahead and move on to telling you how you can engage with us. One of the things we want is feedback.
Yep.
And we want topics that maybe you're interested in. We haven't covered them yet.
Well, we haven't covered any of them yet.
We haven't covered anything yet.
Yeah.
But what you can do, if you'd like, we have an email address you can send your feedback to. It's podcast@churchak.org. podcast@churchak.org. We'd love to hear from you, and we'll respond as quickly and as soon, as often as we can to those, but we'd appreciate that. And we need you to know that this will be posted every single Monday. So this is a YouTube channel, essentially. We're going to be posting this, and you have something to look forward to there.
I think it's worth just saying or mentioning, in the spirit of what we hope to accomplish in this conversation, that as you engage, as you comment and post, be kind, be thoughtful, listen, be looking for the common ground. And I think if people can do that, we'll probably have much better and more productive dialogue. So,
Hey, man, Jonathan, I'm looking forward to it.
me too, Jonathan.
All right.